Welcome, welcome to the Mind Fuck Podcast. Yay! welcome, my friend. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to hang out with me. I am uber grateful you're here. My name is Wanu Aleshe. And sometimes I do go by Amazing Soul. Now, FCK stands for fun, compassion, and kindness. Now, on the Mindfuck podcast, what we essentially talk about is nervous system regulation, how to safely build trust between your brain and your body so that you can start responding to life and you react less. And also, integrating our inner child, that childlike version of you that just kind of forgot how to have fun with life. All right, now we do have a mini tradition that we do on the show right before the episode. There's a list that I always read. The title of the list is called Reminders to Being Human. Now, the intention behind reading that list is to remind myself and also in the hopes of reminding you on your journey. Reminders to being human. Have fun along the journey. Show yourself compassion. Be kind to others. Being complex and being simple can hold true in the same breath. Stay curious. Hold space for pauses. Hold space for not knowing. Never underestimate the power of silence. Nature has a lot of wisdom. Pay attention. There is power in we than I. If nothing else makes sense, come back to love. Pain is our greatest teacher. And the very last one, never underestimate your ripple of existence. Yay! All right. Now let's get into the fun part of the show. All righty. Now, I want you to picture something simple. It's early in the morning. Nothing dramatic is happening. It's not one of those new life starts today mornings. No, it's just a regular everyday morning. And your alarm goes off and you reach for your phone before your feet even touches the ground. And you probably scroll a little on Instagram. You check your text messages. And somewhere in the middle of all that, there's this quiet thought in your mind. Today, I'm going to do it right. Today. Maybe it's the habits you've been trying to build for a while now. I mean, maybe it's like working out more consistently, drinking more water, not checking your phone first thing in the morning, being consistent with something you care about, right? And for a moment, you actually believe yourself. You do. So you get up, maybe you start the thing, maybe you don't. But somewhere during the day, something happens. You miss it. I mean, you forget, you skip it, or you just don't feel like doing it, right? And almost immediately, that voice comes up in your head, the inner critic. Here we go again. Why are you like this? Damn, you're so inconsistent. Damn, you said you were going to change, didn't you? Now, I want to talk to you about that moment today on the episode, on the podcast. Not the habit, not the routine, that moment right after you don't follow through and how you talk to yourself in that moment. Because if you're honest, my friend, that's where things actually start to spiral. It's not when you miss the habit. No, no, no. But when you start being hard on yourself about missing the habit. And I'll tell you this, I know this one very, very deeply. Because for me in my life, I used to think being hard on myself was the thing that would fix me. I really, really had that belief system. And I remember one very specific night, I was sitting in my bed, my phone was in my hand, and I'd already told myself earlier that day, tonight, right? I'm going to sit in silence. I'm going to actually take care of myself, reflect on my day, do some voice journaling. And hours went by. I was still scrolling on my phone. I was still switching between the apps, telling myself, just 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. And then suddenly, it's really late, like too late at night. And I just feel this tightness in my chest. It wasn't loud, but it felt a bit heavy, but it was very present in the moment. And the thought comes in. You did it again, Wano. You have one simple thing to do, and that's why nothing actually changes. Right? And here's the part that I did not understand at the time in my life. That moment right there I just described to you, my friend. That's where the habit actually gets worse. Because now what's happening is it's not just that I being voice journal. Now I feel like I'm the type of person who cannot follow through on things. So what did I do next? I don't suddenly get motivated to do the habit. I don't suddenly become disciplined. No, right? What I do is I avoid. I emotionally eat. I scroll more. I numb. Or I just simply check out. Because my body is now carrying the weight of disappointment, shame, a lot of goddamn pressure. That's what my body's carrying at that time. And I didn't say it back then because I can say very clearly now, like night and day, being hard on myself did not create any form of change. I mean, being hard on myself actually created more resistance. I'm going to slow this down for you, my friend, because this is very subtle and most people miss this part. When you miss a habit, that's one moment. That's neutral. And that's just life. That's being human. But when you start saying to yourself, damn, why am I like this? Damn, I can't even trust myself anymore. Damn, I always mess things up. Your body doesn't hear that as motivation. Your body hears that as pressure. Your body hears that as threat. Your body hears that as not safe. And when your body does not feel safe, it doesn't open up. It doesn't expand. It doesn't move towards growth. It stays in quote stagnant. It contracts. It protects you. That's what your body does. It's a protection mechanism. So now, instead of moving towards the habit that would actually transform your life, you move away from it. Not because you're lazy. No. Mm-mm. It's not because you don't care And it's also not because you don't want to transform your life. It's but because your nervous system is trying to protect you from feeling that way again. That's exactly what's happening. Now, I want you to think about that, my friend. What if the reason the habit keeps getting harder is not because you're not trying enough, but because of what happens after you don't follow through on what you said you're going to do? Let me give you another example. It's in the afternoon and you told yourself you're going to go for a walk. Nothing crazy, just a regular walk around your neighborhood, right? And you feel it. You feel that little nudge that, go outside, feel the sun, look around, go in nature. You feel that, but you don't move. You sit right there on that couch. You don't move. And then a few minutes later, the inner critic comes in. You see, you can't even do something this small. This is exactly why you're stuck in your life. The voice, the inner critic. Now, notice what happens in your body when that happens. Your chest immediately tightens, your shoulder drops, and your energy shifts. Right? And now, even the idea of going for a walk feels heavier. It's not because the walk changed. No, it's because of how you're talking to yourself. That's what's happening. So instead of getting up, you stay. Protection mechanism, my friend. Your body's trying to protect you. And later, you beat yourself up again about not going for the walk. Do you see how the suffering and the cycle continues? It just layers up. And this is the part most people do not talk about. People tell you, be more disciplined, stay consistent, push through. But they don't talk about the relationship you have to have with yourself, between your brain and your body, in the moment you don't follow through. It's a relationship you build. And that relationship between your brain and your body, my friend, is everything. Because habits are not just about actions. No. Habits are about how safe your body feels to return after you don't get it right. Safety. Now, let me say this again in a very simpler way, because, for example, if every time you mess up, you attack yourself, your body automatically starts to associate the habit with pain. That's what your body does automatically. So even when you want to do it, something in your body resists. It's not because you don't care, but because your system remembers. The body always keeps score. The body always keeps score. Your system remembers, last time we didn't do this, we got hurt. You remember habits, pain. And I have lived this in so many different ways in my life. You see, when I was transitioning out of the military in 2022, I did not realize how much structure I had lost in my life, because everything used to be laid out for me. Everything was clear, precise, predictable. There were systems in place. And then suddenly, it was just me. There were no systems anymore. There was no predictability anymore. And I told myself, okay, now you need to create your own structure. Now you need to be more disciplined. Now you need to figure this out on your own. And anytime I did not follow through back then, I was so hard on myself. I was. And I would just tell myself, damn, why can't I just get it together? And I was like, damn, I have structure in the military. What's wrong with me now? Why can't I follow through? But what I didn't see at that time was this: I did not feel safe in my body. There was no trust between my brain and my body. There was no internal foundation. There was no internal trust. You need to create that trust first, my friend, between your brain and your body. That's the first step. That's the foundation. So every time I try to build a habit from that place, and I would beat myself up when it didn't work out, I was making the experience even heavier for my body. Do you see, my friend? And my body responded exactly how it's supposed to. My body resisted. Of course it would, because there is no foundation of trust between the brain and the body. That is key, because it wasn't being met with safety. I was constantly meeting myself with pressure. So you see, my friend, if you're listening to this right now and you've been hard on yourself for not being consistent, for not sticking to your habit, or for falling off again, I want you to consider something, okay? What if the habit isn't the first thing you fix? Mm-mm. What if the first thing to look at is this? How do you treat yourself when you do not follow through on the habit? And be honest with what comes up for you, because that moment right there, that exact moment right there is where everything starts to shift in your life. The relationship you have with yourself, your internal dialogue. So instead of saying, why am I like this? What if it becomes, oh, okay, I see what just happened. I see what just happened. I didn't follow through. Okay, awareness. Not to fix it, not to change it immediately. No, no, no. Just to notice what's happening in real time. Because that's where I started on my journey. Just noticing when I didn't follow through. I didn't jump to being consistent overnight. I didn't become someone who has it all together. It didn't happen suddenly. I started changing the tone, the inner critic, the inner dialogue, how I spoke to myself. So it was the same situation, the same missed habit, same not following through. So instead of attacking myself, I was pause and say to myself, okay, I noticed that. Okay, I'm aware. That's it. You see how the tone changed? The same thing, but a different tone. Softer, kinder, compassionate. And it felt weird at first because part of me was like, this thing is not going to work. Nah. You're letting yourself off the hook, Wanu. You're becoming softer, Wanu. But over time, that's the power of awareness, my friend. It's so powerful. Very simple, not easy, but powerful. Something started to shift. It started to soften, right? The habit did not feel as heavy anymore because I wasn't adding that extra layer of pressure on myself. And slowly, my friend, my body started to trust that it was safe to try again. It wasn't perfectly, it was not even consistently, but safely. Safety is key on this journey. And that changed everything for me. So, my friend, if you're in this cycle right now where you try, you miss, you judge yourself, then it gets harder, and you keep repeating the same cycle over and over and over and over again, I want you to experiment with something simple, right? Next time this happens, and it will, right? When you notice it, I want you to pause. When you notice the inner critic come up to judge yourself, I want you to pause. And I want you to feel your body. Just notice what's there. Feel what's happening in your body in real time. And instead of adding a story, just say, I see it. I feel the tightness in my chest. I see it. That's it. For a few moments. The goal here is not to fix anything or force anything. No, that's not the goal. Because the intention is what you're doing in that moment is that you're creating a different experience for your body. Same situation, different response. One where it's safe even when things don't go perfectly. Safety is the ultimate goal, my friend. And over time, that safety becomes that very thing that actually supports the habit. Safety is a foundation between your brain and your body. It's not discipline, it's not pressure, safety, trust. See those two things? It's a foundation to everything in your life, my friend, because the truth is, you're not trying to build a perfect routine. No, the truth is, you're learning how to be with yourself through the process. That's the truth. And that is what actually makes things sustainable in your life. So the next time, my friend, you find yourself saying to yourself, why does being hard on myself make it worse? Just remember this. Your body is not responding to the habit. No, that's not what your body is responding to. Your body is responding to how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself when things don't go the way you planned. That's what your body's responding to. And maybe, just maybe, the real shift isn't in doing more. Mm-mm. The real shift is in softening how you speak, being kind, being compassionate to yourself right there in the moment when things don't follow through in your life. As always, my friend, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to listen. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Thank you.